piano lesson today, I thought we would look at Hiromi Uehara's solo from Time Out. It's a fantastic song and I love the solo. What I love about the solo the most is the structure of it, how they really build it and peak at the end. And plus, she chucks in a lot of outside tones, but it is essentially based all around the blues scale. So it's a really good one to analyse and look at if you want to start getting some outside lines in your blues soloing. So if you want, check the link in the description. I've got links to the transcription, and I've got a few backing tracks there in different tempos that you can play along with if you wish. So let's look at first the chord progression. So there's basically two chord progressions throughout. We've got this C minor, B flat minor 7, E flat 7, and A flat major 7, and then G7. So essentially that G7 leads us back to the C minor really well all the time. That's what's called a perfect cadence. And what we're doing here is a 2-5-1 into the semitone above the G7 there. So you could almost think of that as a 2-5-1, except that's the tritone substitute. So that would be the 2-5-1, but that's the tritone substitute version. 2-5-1. And to get to that note, we're approaching by 2-5-1 at C. So 2-5-1 in A flat, and then G7. So that's the first chord progression. Then after 8 bars of that, we change to this progression, which is a 2-5-1 in E flat major, F minor 7, B flat 7, E flat major 7. G is also relative to C minor, by the way, and then A flat major 7. So that again, F minor 7, B flat 7, E flat major 7, and A flat major 7. Then we do basically a 2-5-1 again, but we're using the tritone substitute of B flat. So we play a bit tritone away and play the E there, but using the same 3rd and 7th of the B flat. See how it's got that same function. So F minor 7, E7, E flat major 7. Then we do a 2-5-1 in C minor, D minor 7 flat 5, G7, and C minor. Then that goes to F7. And then we go 2-5-1 in A flat, then A flat, which leads us to our G7, and then we're back to our original chord progression. So I'll just play all those in context for you. So that's the first chord progression, and here's the second chord progression. 2-5-1 in E flat, 2-5-1 again, but using the tritone substitute, and then hang on E flat for a bit, 2-5-1 in C minor, then F, B flat, E flat, which is 2-5-1 to A flat, which leads us to G7, and then we're back to our original chord progression. So you can see all those chords are really propelling themselves to the other chords of the progression, so it's pretty cool. So because it's all based around that C minor, and I know it changes to E flat, but essentially that is the relative keys, so C minor is relative to E flat major. We are essentially thinking in terms of C blues. So that's C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, B flat, C. Now, as you're going to see, we're based around that blues scale, but when we want to make it sound like it's outside the scale, we're kind of leaning into the major third a lot in this solo. And even the A naturals and B naturals, there's a few notes that she always goes to make it sound like it's outside. The most important leading note to think about in this progression, when it's on the G7, and that's our blues scale, but when the G7's being hit, she's very good at getting this note here, this B natural, because that's like the third of the G7 there. So you'll see in the solo she's leaning into the B natural a lot, particularly when the chord progression's hitting the G7 there. Alright, so essentially we're going to be using the notes from the C blues scale. The full scale, parent scale, would be C natural minor. And natural minor because A flat's in the chord progression. But then when we're hitting the G, we're getting that leading tone in there a lot of the time there. Alright, let's go bar by bar and analyse this solo. So the phrase that takes us into the solo, okay, so already she's using that blues scale, but the note that really sticks out is that E natural. So she's already taking you out of that sense of C minor there. Now, you may see in other charts that they might actually think of the C minor as a C7 sharp 9, and that would kind of make sense because then you've got the major third and the flat third in the chord anyway, so that could be why she's using so many major thirds in her solo. But we'll just think of it in terms of C minor and talk about it going outside that chord. So that's that first phrase. Then it takes us. So what's happening there is she's thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. She's kind of playing across the bar. So even though the beat's going 2, 3, 4, she's going 2, 3, 4. So she's playing across the bar there. And then that final phrase, see how she's leaning into that B natural because we're on the G7. But essentially all blues scale. Okay, and then here's our next phrase. So what's happening there? For starters, leading into that phrase, again she's using that B natural on the G7, and then we're leading, this is all kind of blues, but again using that major third in there just to get that sort of outside sound. And then she goes into this chromatic run. So it's all blues scale up until that point. Then she's actually adding the B into the scale there. Then she jumps up, you know, as if you're doing the blues scale again. And then she just goes chromatic scale, but resolves it into a nice C minor triad. Cool. Now, moving on, she's got, again, very bluesy thing there. Then we get into the next chord progression, and now I often think when you're on the G7, you can kind of think in terms of diminished 7 chords. It's that kind of I Will Survive effect. Just realised I don't have my pedal. So that's kind of the effect there. For those who don't know, diminished chords are minor thirds apart: B to D, D to F, F to A flat. So in this case, in this part of the solo, she's going slipping into that. So she's using the B flat to slip into that that kind of shape, that diminished shape. And then we've got this movement. So again, kind of chromatic down. And then for the B flat, she's still using that kind of diminished shape. And by the way, that diminished shape, yes, it works on the G7, but it also works on the B flat 7, which is kind of the relative to it. Well, the relative 5 chords, because that's the 5 of E flat, where G is the 5 of C. But still, that diminished chord works over that B flat 7, because you get a flat 9, major 3rd, 5th, and flat 7. So again, kind of using that shape there. And again, just using this chromatic movement to get to our guide tones there of E flat. So all that again. Watch this line, this is amazing. Now, look, when I first learned that, I was like, what the? You know, I couldn't really work out the relationship to the harmony there. All I can think of is, okay, it's A flat major 7, but she's essentially thinking in terms of A blues scale, but using these chromatic slipping notes as well. But basically playing A blues over the A flat major. Now what I like about this rhythm too is when she hits the A flat, she's kind of leaning onto that one and then a quick flick down to the next note. And it's all chromatic, and then when she wants to enclose a note, and what I mean by that is that's the target note, she gets to the E flat and then goes under it and then gets to the target note. And then that keeps going down chromatically. I'll show you that one more time because it's so awesome. And this next line's kind of going out again. But it does resolve on that B natural as it gets to the G7 there. So it kind of looks like it's going up a C minor scale, but then it hits the E natural. And then we're jumping to the A natural, which is really out there when you've got a D minor 7 flat 5. Because you've got that clash there. Again, hitting that major 3rd heaps. And then, but it resolves so nicely onto that B natural. So that phrase again. 2, 3. And then again, that diminished chord shape is taking us into the next phrase. On the G7 there. So we've got a sequence here where we've got that phrase, but we're just heading down the scale. And that's just coming up the scale to get the repetition. But on the middle one, we've got this enclosure. So this is our target note, but we've got 4 notes to get us there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going semitone below, semitone above, and then into that phrase. Cool, so that whole line again sounds like this. gets us to our next phrase. So now we're into blues territory again. Using that blues note. And just to mix it up, just throws in an A over that A flat again. Just to get that outside sound again. So that's all pretty bluesy, but just chucking in that A natural there to take it out for a bit. And then we've got these lines here. Again, using that E natural to get that little outside sound. And that's very bluesy, but then instead of she's changing to the B natural to signify the G7 there. And now for my favourite line in the whole solo. How cool is that? So, it is essentially blues scale, but I'll show you what happens. So up the blues scale, using the B natural to get us to the E flat, chromatic run. As soon as we get to the F sharp, we're going A flat. So it's kind of like that was our target note, and then we're sort of going in and around these target notes. So our next target note is G. Now this is called an interlocking enclosure. So basically we've got a major second here, which leads into this note, which then does a major second there. And that's a little technique you can do all the time. Anytime you want to kind of get some movement into your solo or take it to a different note, you can use that approach to get to your next phrase. Interlocking enclosure. Chromatic run. F sharp, A. Again, enclosing D flat, B, and C is our target. So up to speed again. How cool is that? Amazing, amazing line. Then this takes us to this bit. We're in the new chord progression now. What I like about this line, I like that it just reminds me that you don't always have to go up and down for these solos. This one is sort of goes up and then repeats the line again. I'll show you what I mean. There's the line, and then it comes. See that? That kind of repeating that scale phrase. And then we've got a little flurry of notes here. And what that is we're basically in a C minor, and then a B minor, and then a sort of kind of almost that diminished shape with the minor third there. And it actually is happening over that tritone substitute thing. So, and here we've got these really nice melodic phrases. I've notated it quite straight, but listen to the recording that Hiromi does, because it really is played laid back and behind the beat. So don't try and play it note for note like written in the transcription. You really want to get that. You how it's kind of really lazy there? And no surprises there, it's all blues scale. But lots of grace notes in there to give it that sort of extra. Oh, and this final one. Now that final one, I have to really get my thumb on the F sharp to get all those notes. So I'll show you that all in context there. On there. Now that takes us to a nice little chromatic run, well, a blues run. Again, using that E natural and the B natural there because we're actually on the G7 again. Love how she's got that intuition about where that G7 is. So we're doing this phrase which is flicking up the blues scale. The trickiest thing about this is the fingering because so I'm slipping into the fourth finger and bringing my thumb up and slipping into the fourth finger. So and now this cool run. So again, really blues there, but again, just chucking in that E natural to make it, give it that outside flavour. Cool, and that starts bringing us into this chromatic run. Basically, once we get to the B flat, we're chromatic all the way up to the E natural there. Going chromatic, we're going to rest on that B natural there. So it's all, and this is kind of our circus phrasing here, where you've got that. So pretty much the chromatic scale. I know that it's not strictly all chromatic, but. Cool is that? So it was all sort of chromatic up and down, but this one here, again, we've got this interlocking enclosure idea where we're going, there's our target note, there's our target note, so we're going, and that's how we're getting out of it. So we go chromatic, minor third, and then chromatic scale. Now look at those notes. Again, almost like notes from the diminish chord there that works over that G7. So that's our way out. And then it lands on the G. And this takes us to our next phrase. So we've got our little blues, and then over the E flat major 7 chord, we're going down an A major triad. How clashy is that? So thinking of the tritone above E flat major, then chromatic, then sort of our sort of bluesy, but using our B natural there. And then we've got our interlocking enclosure idea. So See how that's all major seconds, but it's leading us into all those different notes. And then it leads us into essentially a B minor triad, but with a few color notes in there. So leading into the B, into the A flat, and then coming back down this G minor triad, which is essentially the notes of E flat major 7, which is the chord it lands on. So all together we had how cool is that? And then we get into these sort of triplet notes. So what's actually happening there, we're just leading up into these 3 notes, and we're just playing them up and down, but at that kind of fast semi-quaver triplet speed. So now this is our way out. When the G7 hits, the triplets stop, and then we're doing this run. Chromatic, but again, this is our target note, so we're adding the F sharp before there. And then we go chromatic here, and basically down those exact same notes there. And now a little repetition phrase there. Cool. I'll play that all for you again. Then that repetitive phrase, but the chord progression changes underneath it. And now, we don't have anything too tricky from here, but it's all thicker texture. We're using octaves. She's actually playing the comp chord at the same time as the octave for an extra punch. Again, using that major third there. So basically that's the idea, just using these comps and octaves. And again, she's sort of playing over the beat, so she's sort of displacing the strong beats there. And now we get into our it sounds really impressive, but it's not too hard. We're basically using this sequence here. But where it gets really interesting is it starts becoming, at the moment it's a set of 2. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But then later on she makes it a set of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, which has that sense of playing around with the beats. So, with the chord progression. And of course, she does it really, really fast. I don't know if I can do it up to her speed, but let's see. So that was the whole solo from Time Out. I hope you enjoyed that one. I loved it. I guess my takeaway things from this is just knowing that you know, if you want to get that outside sound, you know, leaning into that major third when you're playing in the minor pentatonic is really cool. If you've got a progression that has a strong 5 chord, leaning into that major third is great, and using that diminished kind of shape around there is cool. Chromatic runs are awesome, and there's all sorts of you know, other lines like that. There's all sorts of ways you can play outside. So I hope you enjoyed playing this one. Remember the actual transcriptions in the link in the description, and I've got a couple of backing tracks that you can download and try out. Alright, thank you so much for following me in this lesson, and I hope you enjoyed it and found it inspirational. And please subscribe if you want to stay up to date with my piano lessons. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.